Canary Islands. Arturo's here from the AAA group, he's the director, and he'll be doing a talk, but it's interactive, so he's happy, or you'll explain, but everyone will have a chance to have questions after. And this is in collaboration with Tenerife Work Play. If you haven't heard about it, it's a service run by the government, so you should definitely check them out because there's loads of resources online and ways to help, and there's even like a welcome pass. Thank you very much, Arturo.
Okay, well, nice to meet you, lovely crowd. And I'm going to run you through the boring world of fiscality and taxes in a foreign country, which I'm pretty sure you're only here because you need to. So people who are thinking of setting up a company, getting settled in a country, this affects you directly in every aspect of your life. So I'll try to make it as fun as possible it could be with this topic, and then also discuss personal questions that are related to what we're explaining, and the more deeper consultations we do afterwards, or we discuss with each other. But in general lines, I love the interaction because I get your point of view, and since we've been doing a lot of conferences and chats over these two digital nomads and remote workers, in my company we have gained a very large insight of your needs and your industry, your worries and so on. So that's we value that a lot, so we can adapt to the needs of the future potential clients. Well, in Spain, most European countries as well, you have a national tax office. That will be the first one here. I'm gonna point out something because you're also digital and so awesome at your job and all this. Of course, I wasn't gonna do a marketing presentation with my crappy Microsoft PowerPoint from university times, so I'll just write it down as bullet points, also to remind me of where we are in the chat and so on. So the first one is the National Tax Office. This regulates your income in Spain when you become a taxpayer. When do you become a taxpayer in Spain? By law, after you are 183 days in a country, you must become a fiscal resident. But there's many other reasons why you could become a fiscal resident before, and some people are exactly looking to do this because they want to settle in the country, and basically you will produce your world income in a Spanish tax return. That's what makes you a fiscal resident. Completely different to having, oh, but I have the green card, I'm a resident. Yeah, you are a resident, but that's not a fiscal resident. The only thing is, it's normally linked that if you have the green card of residency of Spain, you should be a fiscal resident because you are declaring to the national police and the authorities, but more in the foreign law side of things, that you spend most of your time in Spain or over 6 months per year, and then either that you are working in the country or that you have a super huge insurance that covers you for any diseases that you may get along your life and so on. So that's, for example, a person that purchases a home here, comes 7 months and takes a private insurance could perfectly have the green card of residency, but there may be fiscal residence in their country of origin. So these are two different concepts. In this case, we're talking of pure fiscality. Where are you tributing your world taxes? The first question that most people that land in our office have is basically, what is it better, to be self-employed, or do I start self-employed and then switch into a limited company? Or the decision is very simple, and like many things in life, the decision is money, income and profits. So basically, setting up a self-employed person can be done in 1 day, literally. We take a few more because I explained you of some government subsidies that are now in application. And to set up a limited company in Spain as such right now takes at least a month. It's signing at the notary, mercantile register, it gets stopped there in some pile of paperwork, and by the time we're opening bank accounts of your new company, we are way past the month since the day of signing of the limited company. Where do we personally draw a line? Because in your line of business, the line could be financial, or it could be that you're doing a dangerous activity. Some people that do an activity, for example, somebody that has a company of the fantastic sport of jumping off planes blindfolded. Well, this you'll never do as self-employed because the risk of something atrocious happening or God knows what. Sorry for these companies, but it's quite a high risk, it's a dangerous kind of thing. Boating companies, the same, to separate somehow your personal assets from the trading activities of the company. Activities that are dangerous, we always advise to do it with a limited company, have your insurance there, but don't have an incident, business related, ruining your personal life. In your line of business, most of you will work with companies on a professional level in contractual services and so on, freelancing and all that, or you have your own online products, so it's not classified in our view as a potentially dangerous or hazardous line of work. But in that case, then we say, okay, what was your yearly income last year? And if the line is above 40, you are already wasting money being self-employed. So that's how we assess it. In this line, why is this? A self-employed person pays 20% of the quarterly figure of the result of the economic activity, so like your income minus all your expenses, which are kind of less as well when you're self-employed. There's a lot of things you cannot deduct. And in your line of business, luckily or unfortunately, in this case, you don't have a lot of expenses. This thing that you can put part of your home and the internet and the electricity and whatever, it is true, but it's not as open. You cannot say that you're working in a home, in a room of 150 square meters to deduct 90% of the electricity bill and most of the fiber optic contract will be deducted. It won't be the case. The tax office is screening this very thoroughly, as they should as well. So in that line of business, most of your income minus some costs that you will have, of course, you will declare every quarter and you'll pay 20% on it. This 20% is okay if I am on 25 or 30K a year, but if I am on 45 or 50 or 60, this 20% doesn't cut it by far. So when do we do the whole view of what happened in a year of your self-employed activity? When we do your tax return the following year, now we're just in the period from April till June, and we produce your tax return of 2021, and there we will see, okay, well, this lady here paid this amount in the quarters of April, this one in July, this one in October, this one on year end. That was the total income per year. And when we do your tax return, it happens that you jump to levels of 37% because you are on 60K profits per year. Well, the difference of the 20 that you've already paid and the 37% taxes that you should be on, you will pay in a tax bill. You will not have a tax return. So tax advisors, we assess this, and prior to giving you a nasty surprise or this miscommunication that you are not aware of, but you never told me, you only told me I was going to pay 20% of my quarterly income, to a certain level. So it is our job to monitor your economic activity and see if you're going to jump above the different tax brackets that we have in all European countries. So that's as for the tax office. There's benefits and negatives in both. In my line of business and most of the digital clients that we have, a lot of them will be limited companies, purely levels of income. But also it allows you to play a lot more. And in the Canary Islands, I didn't even write it here, but we have quite a few tax schemes which allow you to make it very, very efficient within a legal frame. Provided only in the Canaries you can really maximize your yearly profits and pay as little as possible taxes, which is basically probably why you're here, getting this info. We have a system called RIC. I don't know if you've heard about it, the Reserve of Investments in the Canary Islands. You can do it as self-employed as well, but as I said, it doesn't really make sense because as self-employed we will stop at a certain level per year of income. So most of the people doing this scheme will be limited companies. And what happens is 1 year, to make it a practical short example, When you are a limited company, you pay yourself a salary of director, and we take out a chunk of money because you are managing your company, so you have to be paid for it as well. But also as director, you need to look after that your company goes further into the future. You cannot drain your company completely and so on. You want longevity for your limited company. So there is some profits to be filed in corporate tax. The first 2 years in Spain, corporate tax is 15%. So we were just discussing, a self-employed will pay 20 every quarter. Just on that, okay, you've earned 5% extra, more money is left on your side than on the tax office side. But on year 3 and onwards, the level of taxation is 25%. And that's when we have to start to sweat. Because when that happens, we maximize your salary to a level that you are comfortable with. That makes sense, because we're also not going to pay you a salary of 100,000 euro because you're going to hit taxation levels in the 30-something, 40%. So then we'll do it to a level that your salary compensates the corporate tax that you're going to have on the other side. And then the remaining money, you hit corporate tax. When you do so, if you commit only in the Canary Islands to reinvest in purchasing of assets, creation of a new job of an employee for your company, and several other things, always to do with continuing your economic activity. You cannot purchase the villa in which you're going to live, but you can purchase an apartment that you're going to put on, it's going to have to be a property that you can put in vacational rentals, and you're going to do an economic activity with the company with this property you purchased. All things said, you are purchasing this property with quite a large percentage paid by the tax office. You can understand it like that, because instead of paying 25% corporate tax, we can we allocate, dotación is in Spanish, we allocate up to 85% of your yearly profit. You hit corporate tax with 100K, you have to pay 25,000 euro. We take 22,250 and put them aside, and we say this lady is committing to a future investment in the coming 3 years. That you also have to execute it in a certain time frame. Okay, so what do you pay that year? 15% of the 25,000 euro that you had to pay in the first place. This is 3,750. If you do the maths a little bit, I filed corporate tax 100K and I pay 3,750. What's your corporate tax level? 3.75%. You cannot do this in any other EU country without legal tools of a company. So that's what is dragging a lot of investors, digital companies, filming productions, you name it, to the Canary Islands. Thanks to the capacity that people in your industries have of digital working and work from everywhere kind of thing. This allows you to choose also, aside from all the greatest things that we're not even going to number that the Canary Islands offer you, is also a great tax paradise, but not really with a negative connotation. It really is a paradise with low taxation and all things correct. So in that sense, that's why this boom is ever growing. This is only the tip of the snowball rolling, but in the coming years, the Spanish government and the Canadian government is preparing legislation. This I'm only going to mention at the end of our chat, of what they want to regulate in your industries to allow even more people to come over, to extend their stay, etc., etc. So that will be for the decision self-employed or limited company. Canadian Tax Office, right. The ATC, in the Canary Islands, this is something that always raises with all my clients, because 99% are of foreign origin. Doesn't matter that they're not digital nomads. We have construction companies and real estate people and all kinds of industries, but the common denominator is we have very little local national Spanish people. Some large industries and big guys, but mainly we concentrated, since we set up our firm, in European and in general foreign origin clients. So we had many years of understood of of your expectations and so on. And this is something that will happen to all of you. The VAT of the Canary Islands is not a Spanish IVA. It's also not European VAT. And that's what almost non-accountant in Europe knows until we have a chat with them and we send them the law and so on, Article 6 of blah, 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 and then they understand it. They basically, if you send an invoice to a client of yours in Sweden or Germany or you name it, they're gonna say that you don't have a company. And that is quite confronting when you have just set up the company for a client and they say the accountant of my big client that I'm pending my life on is telling me that I don't have a company and they cannot book my invoice and therefore they cannot pay me. I've had chats at 4 in the morning with accountants in Canada. Engineers and architects not being paid in a project of an oil refinery in the Netherlands. You name it. All this happens to all of you because a lot of accountants in Europe do not know that the Canary Islands are a third territory. So we are Europe, but for VAT reasons we are extra-communitary. So we're as good as Russia, China, or the US to the European Union. On the other side, if you have a company in Madrid or Barcelona or whatever, you are in the European VAT regime where you invoice and you take back the VAT and it's a whole other system. But that you cannot do in the Canary Islands. You simply invoice for your services without any VAT because what you provide is, if it's an online service and it's not a physical product that you're selling, it's gonna be understood of where does my service occur? Does my service occur in the European country or am I providing services for a company in Germany and it happens somehow in the cyberspace? Well, it happens where you provide it in your home in the Canary Islands and you invoice a company in Germany, Sweden, Belgium, you name it. So for this reason, you cannot put any VAT on your invoice, which is going to be also very appealing to the company and even allow you to be ahead of your competition if it's necessary, because all companies who are profitable will also pay VAT. So in your case, they pay us your invoice and that's it. If you don't mind, we'll go further into this because I know this is a very sensitive matter of the EGIC after the conversation with yeah, for sure. So, Social Security of Spain. The Social Security is an entity of our country and it has two, it has various, but mainly two regimes. The general regime is the one that you are in when you are employed by a boss, by a third party, and when you are self-employed or a company director, you are in the special regime of self-employed workers, RETA for us. This is a regime in which you pay a fixed quote, at the moment it's still like this, and you pay a fixed quote per month, and it doesn't have to do with how much you are earning or what salary you're paying yourself. You just contribute to your pension for an exact amount every month. When you are self-employed, this amount is, I don't have it quite updated, but it's in the 960 something euros per month. And when you are a company director, I think it's already on 1,200 euros. This is what you will get as a pension, if we do get a pension, when we retire. But what is your quote to contribute to this and many other things, the development of the country, free access to medical care, and so on. You will pay, when you are self-employed, 290 euro, and when you're a company director, it's a 370, 367, something like this. So, what are you covered with this? Well, all these things. Future pension contribution plus free medical care in Spain. When you start an economic activity, of course, the Social Security are so kind that they allow you to reach this level of payments slowly but surely, certainly surely. So in the first year, you're going to pay 60 euro per month. On the second year, we split it in two brackets of 6 months each, and you're going to be paying 140 something or 150, and then on the last term, from month 19th till month 24th of your economic activity, you are already close to the 200 euro per month. and after these 2 years subsidized period by the Social Security, you will pay 290 or 367, depending on which regime are you assigned, as company director of your limited company or freelance, self-employed person. So that's how the Social Security works and what you get in return. Okay, I mentioned briefly the subsidies. I just mentioned you the one of the Social Security. The subsidy is that you are subsidized your Social Security quote in 80-something% the first year when you're paying this 60 euro instead of 290 or 370 euro. And the other one is the Canadian government subsidy for creation of your own job. This is interesting, but because you've landed on this country, you are not seeking unemployment benefits or anything like that. We register you as unemployed and we register you as I'm a job seeker. And all of a sudden, a couple of days later, you happen to create your own job. Well, the Canadian government will provide you with a grant which for ladies comes in around 7,000 euro, and for us men, and it is pure statistics, and will be paid about 5,000 euro for this subsidy, 5,500. So this is purely non-Spanish subsidy. This is purely from the Canadian government, and it has helped many businesses to take the plunge. Of course, there's always a but, and the but is, but you have to be self-employed for 3 years, paying your taxes in the Canaries and paying your Social Security and so on. If you count the years of subsidy of Social Security of the year of 60 euro, the year of 150 plus 200, and the third year on full 290, you come to 7,360 euro, which is slightly more than what you got. But I didn't get it when I started as self-employed, so I produce it to all my clients that comply with this. So that's very interesting. For the rest, other taxes that you pay, this will touch more as well when we're discussing your personal questions and so on. But to give you a general idea that you say, okay, now I know how much you pay to purchase a property. Well, if you purchase a property in the Canary Islands, how many taxes do you pay? I don't know if there's UK people here, but it's like the stamp duty or the tax that you pay to put a property to your name. In the Canary Islands, you have two ways. If you are a company and you are purchasing from my company, or I'm a bank, or I'm the building and construction company, and it's a new building, most likely you make contributions along the way, and then you pay 0.75% to legitimize all the concept of the purchase, the final purchase once your house is built, or house or apartment. But if I have a house and you buy my house, and I'm a company and you are a company, what you're going to be paying is 7% of EGIC, or our Canadian VAT. But in 80 or 90% of the cases, you will purchase a property second-hand or from a private person. In this case, it's an other unpronounceable tax, that is capital, patrimony tax, and juridic documented acts, basically 6.5% of the value. So the apartment you want to buy for 100,000 euro, just you'll have to pay a tax of 6,500 euro within 30 days of coming to the notary.
Sin,
Yeah,
if I may, but the buyer has to pay the tax, right?
the buyer always pays the tax. Yeah, the tax and the acts in the notary, and the seller only pays until very recently a tax that was asked by the town hall where your property was. The vision of a town hall was, because you are buying my house, you bought a house in Adeje and now you are selling it 2 years later for triple the money. Cases like this have gone past our office. You have to compensate us with a town hall tax depending on the value of your property, the length of time that you had it to your name, and so on, because you are doing business in my territory, and for purchasing the house here, you were allowed to make such a profit. That was the reasoning. Well, this has been cancelled, but up to very, very recent, I don't remember exactly, it was cancelled this year, I believe in February. So until then, every time I've sold the property, I've had to pay council taxes if I made a profit on it. Of course, if you sell it at a loss, you do not. I think at this point, I just wanted to touch, because many of you, or in your line of business, they raise up the question of, do I bring my car or do I not? Can I purchase a car in Germany because they are much nicer, they are looked after, and I just import it here and they're cheaper, obviously? Well, you have to really, really think about this. This does not apply to electric cars, but any other car that is non-electric, have this figure in your mind, 25.10% to import it over. Not of the value that you purchase it, of that value, or if the Spanish table that they have for that model of car, they have a whole thing and they say, okay, well, this car of this model of this year in our tax office is worth so much more. Me importing a car from a previous European country where I used to live, I'm not joking, but it was 14,000 euro more than the amount of money I actually purchased the car to my company. So this can be shocking to you, and you will have to pay between import tax, a part of VAT, and a part of several little things, and your number plates and so on. It comes to 25% of the value of the car. So that's why you probably it will put you off in many of these operations of purchasing a car abroad. It is completely different when you immigrate into Spain, or the Canary Islands in this case, with your car. But for that you have to comply with a certain number of things. The car needs to be to your name longer than 6 months, and you should have been a resident in the country that you are bringing the car from at least 12 months. Last time I checked, it was like this. So if you are moving from your country of origin with your vehicle, fine, it's the only chance you get, because the next one you bring, 25%. Okay, and if you are happy, I prefer to not to listen to my voice and listen to your questions and have a little chat.
What's the case when I buy the car in Peninsula? Does it change it?
Is understood to us, as I explained you with the VAT,
Yeah.
the Peninsula is a different country, is as foreign to the Canary Islands as Germany or Belgium.
Okay.
So in Peninsula is a good question, and I'm going to give you a live example, or a real example with no naming names. Client of mine buys a luxury yacht in Italy. He brings it to the Canary Islands, pays mega tax, has to pay VAT on the boat again, but he already paid VAT when he purchased it in Italy. If he would have put that boat in a port of Mallorca, for example, he wouldn't have had to do it, because it's European VAT. Italian or Spanish, there's a system to do the compensation, and he wouldn't have paid. But because he brought it over here, he had to pay again Egypt on the value of the table of this boat, which wasn't even in the tax office. However, we sorted it. So that's the same applies to bringing a car over from Peninsula.
So when you were saying about social security, you mean autonomo?
The social security, you pay the social security of what we understood as autonomo. In both cases, autonomo or director of your company. It's the same regime of social security, but when you are director of your company, it's a bit more expensive, you pay a bit more, because the contribution to your future pension is a bit more. Or the medical, if you have a medical issue and you are put on a sick leave, you are entitled to 70% of the base of cotización, it's called in Spanish, what you are contributing into the system, you're entitled of 70% of that during the time that you have a sick leave. That's why, if you were here in the awful pandemic times that we just went through, You probably heard of people receiving a cease of activity payout of 660 euro, and other of our clients were getting 800 euro. This is exactly for this. The ones that receive 800 euro were previously paying to the Social Security 367, and the ones that were paying 290, self-employed without a company, just self-employed professional, they receive 660 euro. So it's based on the same concept as when you get a sick leave.
Yeah, I'm a graphic designer, so I have clients who pay me cash and all that, right? So EJIC is like I'll start if I apply for autonomo, that 60 euros and everything will be applicable to me, the subsidy and all that. Apart from that, I have to pay taxes also, like EJIC or VAT or something like that.
The taxes that will apply to that is your, if you are autonomo, your personal income tax. So every quarter, we have to do an operation in which we book all your costs, and we declare all the income that you have received in that quarter from your clients' invoicing. And then the difference of it gives us your profit per quarter, and you will pay, for starters, 20% of this situation.
That's income tax, but there are no indirect taxes like VAT or EJIC or anything.
No,
like that.
not as a graphic designer if your clients are not in the Canary Islands.
No, but then my clients are in Canary Islands.
If they're in the Canary Islands, then you will pay VAT, yeah. Then you will pay EJIC.
But then there is some limit, right? 40,000 something they have to.
Also,
Di-
like the
different
first
story.
year, it's
The
different.
first
Of course, the first year you are put on a system called REPEP, the small business regime. If you don't go over 30,000 euro of income per year, you will not pay EJIC.
Correct.
And if on year one you invoice or you get income from your clients 80,000, you don't pay EJIC on that year, but the next year you will be presenting a tax form of the Canadian EJIC every quarter. Obliged because you went past the level.
So 30,000 is the limit, is it?
Exactly, yeah. 30,000 income,
In-
not profit, income.
Income. Income.
Yeah,
Turnover.
turnover
Yeah. But that's every year,
per year,
per year.
yeah,
Not only the first year.
exactly.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask one related question?
Yes,
and
for
one
sure.
Different? Okay. The related question is, I'm in the first year, but I think I'm going to surpass the 30K, so I'm already taking IJIC for my clients. Is this okay?
On the first year,
Yes.
no, you shouldn't.
Okay.
You can't.
Ah,
Is the first year, even if the first year you don't pay EJIC because of this regulation.
yeah.
It happens that in the first year you invoice 100,000 euro in your company,
Yeah.
well, it doesn't matter. But from January, your first invoice in 2023 will have to be with EJIC
Okay.
because you surpass it on the previous fiscal year. But after you surpass the amount of 30K,
Yeah.
you cannot start to say, I went past the 30K invoice, now I invoice with EJIC. No, it's in the following fiscal year.
Okay, so I correct the invoices and give them the difference.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Or just put up your price and put EJIC non-applicable. Extensión franquicia fiscal. Off you
Yes,
go.
this is smart.
Yeah.
And the second question about the subsidy, the starting business subsidy. So let's say I get the 5,000. I'm okay to stay autonomous 3 years. Can I, at the same time, also open a corporation, a limited, and do both?
This is a very good question, and it's still a controversy to me,
Yeah.
because this case has happened several times. My personal recommendation is to keep a slightly active self-employed activity invoicing, and a new project came along, and that's why you set up your corporation,
Yeah.
your limited company.
Yeah.
But then we have another controversy. The minute I set up a company for you, or you set it up, you have to pay the highest quote, because the Social Security will not be happy that you're paying self-employed quote when you are now a named administrator of a limited company in Spain. So by the time you switch this, the question, still unanswered to us, is can this gentleman keep his job creation self-employed grant, basically? And that's still
Not so.
quite not very clear. For the time being, in all cases like this, we have kept both activities, but we've had the luck that in the company there was another person as administrator to pay the highest fee of administrator, and we've kept you as self-employed paying the same quote you were paying. If you are to set up a limited company, as the fact that I registered you as unemployed, job seeker, and then you set up a limited company, you don't get that grant.
I know,
So that's the controversy there.
exactly.
So
But you
the-
can apply for different grants, sorry. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, this is the only condition to get the grant, to be autonomous for 3 years, or there is something else on the side?
You must have been unemployed, and then we have to register you in the SEPE as a
Yeah.
job seeker.
Okay.
And
That's
after that,
three
yeah.
things, and-
I also have this question from Nomad clients.
Mhm.
If after 2 years you happen to leave the country on another adventure or on a good job offer, you will not have to return the 7,000 euro, just the proportional part, the fraction of the 1 year that
Mhm.
you didn't comply with the regulations.
Okay.
When I was told it is very difficult to get that subsidy. I was told by an accountant,
Hmm?
when I asked, he said it's almost you never get it, something like that. That 7,000 subsidy or 5,000 subsidy.
Yeah, well, it is true that last year they took up to 10 and 11 months in some cases, but all our clients did get it. But there was a moment in which the funds were gone. So we made the necessary phone calls and said, look, we have clients almost pestering us, they comply with everything, and now 9 months have passed, and what do we do? And then you read the regulations and you have the right to reapply a second time after this. So they told us, reapply from this certain date in which the funds will be new funds of the new fiscal year. And then a lot of people were paid. People that we applied for this in January have been paid now in April. So it has gone 3 times quicker than the year before.
Okay.
But they open the funds for per fiscal year and not per quarter, right?
Normally is an allocation per year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but well, we're not far into the year for
Because
this.
my asesoria is very afraid to apply. I think, yeah.
But the problem is that you are already set up as self-employed.
Last year, and she was afraid to apply already last year.
Yeah, but you had to apply for this and then become self-employed. So you
Yeah.
cannot become self-employed and then apply for this. Because at the time that you apply for this, you are requesting this because you are looking for a job and you are unemployed.
Mhm.
If you become self-employed, you are not unemployed, and hence you cannot apply for this. So unfortunately, I'm afraid if they haven't, it's too late. This is why to set up a self-employed, we do it on the same day, literally. We have an appointment for your digital certificate, and the minute you have a bank account, we set you up as self-employed. It doesn't take 2 days. But with this whole thing, and now we are experiencing some extra checkups from the unemployment office, from the SEPE, in which if this lady just landed on this country and I just created her social security number for her, most likely she's going to receive a phone call to check that she exists and to ask some random questions, where you live, what's your name, and so on and on. And after that, they confirm you, and I spoke to you, and that this is not some kind of, I think it's more in the line of crime-related scam. Yeah. So after this, which takes a couple of days, that's when we can set you up as self-employed.
So many years ago, I used to work in Seville. So I had the social security number, but I don't know if it expires or it will always stay the same.
Is
What
for
will
you
happen?
for forever. It will always be your social security number in
So
Spain.
will
Well, I
I
hope
be-
in Seville. If not,
Can
we
I
talk to
ever
them.
be a job seeker then?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
When we take up a document that help us a lot, it has become also almost crucial these days, also for private people without a business, but certainly for you guys. The first thing we do is an appointment at a town hall or local tax office or a government body, in which we produce your digital certificate, and we get emailed a little file, and when we install it in a computer, you've given me power to communicate on your behalf with all the Spanish entities. So if we do so, I'll be able to find out what was your social security number and print it out for you.
On the paper.
Just keep it in an email for the future records.
Okay.
Yeah, because you will need to provide this even if you are not going to become self-employed and an employee of a third party. You need to know this number, because you need to provide it to be employed.
Yeah, I have a question about this ATC, and so you said that the Canary Islands are a third territory,
Yeah,
so that I don't have a VAT number.
you do,
I do.
but it's extra-communitary.
Okay.
It's not European. It's not gonna appear in the FIES register when an accountant in Europe checks your number. When you're self-employed, your VAT number, in Spain is called your NIF, your NIF, just fiscal identification number, is the same as your foreign identification number, your NIE.
Okay.
And when you are a national Spanish like myself, my DNI, my Spanish ID, if I'm self-employed, that's my VAT number as well.
Is it an advantage when I work with German companies or not? I didn't understand that. Because usually they always ask me, what is your VAT number?
Yeah, it's your NIF is your NIE.
Okay.
What you have to put in your invoice is when you're self-employed, your full name, the address that was put in your tax form 036 or 037 of activation with the National Tax Office as self-employed, and then there you see fiscal address, your full name, and NIF. That's what you need to state in an invoice that you are providing your clients. But when they check this NIF, being Germans, automatic into the system there, and computer says no, well then I have a whole email like this prepared with the law that they have to read, click on the link, yes, the Channel Islands and this and that, and Canary Islands are not communitary territory, and therefore, now I know how to book it, as if it was an invoice from a US company, or China. Well, that's what we are here. You thought you didn't go to Africa, but you almost 100 kilometers you make it.
Okay. I have another question. Is it mandatory to have an accountant? I heard this because I just heard about it, that it's mandatory.
Well, as an accountant, what am I going to answer to that? But, the truth is no. It's mandatory to comply with the fiscal laws of Spain. And if you educate yourself and adapt to the new laws that keep on changing, because we are specialists in bureaucracy.
Keep on changing.
Exactly. No, I know people since all their life, they've been doing the same economic activity, they know exactly what to produce. The man has been driving this truck 30 years and filing almost the same figures every quarter, and he's been doing it himself. But if you want somebody that is gonna go assist you deeper or in a more complicated industry, then it's advisable to get a tax advisor to file this. Yeah, you can do it yourself with the tax office, but I certainly wouldn't recommend it. It's not the country to be adventurous with these things. And the worst is you will not find out until 4 years later. And then when they have your dossier there ready, it's year 4 and 5 and 6, they're all coming after each other. So it's advisable that you have somebody, if you don't have a lot of accounting, at least to file your quarterly accounting and somebody to produce your tax return. When you are an employee, you just enter some details and you get the template from the tax office with all your information. If you are happy with what you see, you can just file it. But as a self-employed, it's a bit more complicated than that. You have to enter the figure that you have already fractionally paid every quarter. So yeah, I will not do that. Don't try this alone at home. Yeah. Well, so the last part, because this I thought it was going to come in one of the questions. I have not prepared it for this informative chat because the government hasn't prepared it either. But in the very near future, we're going to be discussing what would be the system of ETIAS, the information traveling system for basically digital nomads. This system, the law of digital nomads, the new law of startups, and the system of ETIAS, this is on European level and these are on Spanish level. This has already been approved 10th of December of 2021 and it is right now in process of approval by the Congress. They reckon third quarter of 2022, so stay tuned and we'll be talking a lot more of this. It's going to regulate lengths of stay for digital and remote workers from non-Schengen spaces, is the most interested parties in this case. It's going to regulate startups, some fiscal deductions for this kind of companies. So can't wait to see what the future holds for the fiscality and the attraction of digital talent to the Canary Islands and Spain in general. Yeah.
Is it relatable to the system of Estonia that they have? The OU?
The corporate taxes are higher,
Yeah.
for what I know of Estonia.
But they have this digital citizen model, right? That you can open a company. start up.
Exactly. Well, the whole idea is that for what I see now, I would love to see this implemented. Cannot wait. That I can electronically register a company for you in 5 or 6 days, instead of sending the company desired name that you want to the notary, that then elevates it to the mercantile register, and then he decides which name is available. Takes 2 or 3 days for the approval of this, and then we go and sign for the company, which takes a month to come back from the notary office. If we can do something similar in 6 days, well, it will be a huge improvement. I cannot wait to see it.
Okay.
It's 2 hours
Fingers.
and 1 day approval.
2 hours and 1 day
No,
approval.
6 days. It's two hours.
Yeah,
You pay the taxes, 20 euros. You get approval the next day.
but this is in Estonia, or this is... yeah.
Yeah.
No. And in the UK, as an accountant, I can also ask for the name myself, and here is a public notary.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, as I said, we're specialized in bureaucracy.
So to close it in Estonia, to close the company, it took me 7 months. To close it here will take 5 years.
To close it here, no, I wouldn't tell you 5 years for sure, no. But you need to liquidate all the assets in your company, and then we need to go and file it at a notary office. You can even leave the country, but you need to sign me the annual accounts approved and all this, and then I can be the person that presents your company liquidation, and you are the person who liquidates your own company, and then they cancel your VAT number and the company is disappears. We've done it for a few clients that have permanently left the country with no assets in a company and no idea of returning, and no, it doesn't. It's a matter of weeks as well. It's more the accounting preparation and the allocation of how we're gonna take money out, if there's money out, or assets, or what do we do if there's cars or a house or whatever. So all these things is what will take you time to get rid of these assets, and the companies sell them, money lands in the company, then you need to split dividends or pay it to yourself, and then is when we can liquidate the company when it's put on zero in the value. So that's more the time consuming part. But the minute we file corporate tax and annual accounts and we prepare the liquidation, it's a notary act and back to the mercantile register. So it's a matter of 3-4 weeks, again, like setting up a company.
I have a question regarding the cars. When is the moment when you need to register the car as in Spanish? So if I bring it from Germany and I stay 5 months and then I plan to go away to Estonia, can I do it, or I need to register the car in Spain?
I believe the time, I'm not quite accurate on this, because even myself, I have no time to go twice to Santa Cruz to Tráfico, and I use a commercial gestor for this. But I believe the time in frame that you can keep a car here is 6 months. And then above that, You have to take it out of the country, bring it back again, or register it. But I think they already, after a couple of months, they already start to do difficult and so on and on. And if you are really doing an immigration with your vehicle and you're gonna stay here a year and a half or something, then you should, the minute you land, you should already start focusing in getting that car registered, because it's gonna take you a couple of months to do so. I had to do an immigration checkup in the MOT office, in the ITV office, for the inspection of a foreign car, and it was rather complicated even to start the car for them, and they didn't find the model and this and that. And I remember that I was almost booking an appointment to do this in La Gomera, because in Tenerife, if you wanted one here in Chafiras, practicality, it was like 4 months later. So I ended up doing it somewhere up north Tenerife in 25 days later. So that will be the main obstacles you will encounter are these, as you know.
Okay.
Our Spanish way, basically.
Yes.
I thought Germany is bad, but I thought Germany is bad, but
No.
You guys, your flag is next to the word efficient in the dictionary, at least of us in Southern Europe.
May I ask about the electric cars, because you say that there is some sort of difference between
Mhm.
electrics and Nomads. So
You don't pay import taxes. You can bring the car from wherever you like.
at all.
Yeah, I think you will pay the registration plates and so on and on, but not in terms of VAT. I do have a personal acquaintance going to the mainland to purchase an electric car and just
And
bringing it over here.
Does it apply also for the hybrids?
I don't think so. Or you need a certain label, but I think is for free is not because you have hybrids and hybrids. Because you have high performance Porsches who can only do 40 kilometers on the electric motor, and the rest is so
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
that's
think
what's
you'll be
going
able
on
to
in
pull it with
Stuttgart.
one of those.
Yeah. It's a fight.
Hmm. You're welcome.
When is the new law for startups coming?
As far as we've read, they want to have it for the third quarter of this year. They want to implement it, and the law of digital nomads, which will be part of this law, for example, they want to implement it from January 2023. But there's also going to be a kind of adaptational period of a bracket of 6 months. So the whole excitement will be October onwards. For sure after the summer.
Maybe it's a hot bomb, I don't know. But do you know about
Caught.
other subsidies? Oh, yours. No. It's about the government and the Prime Minister Sanchez, no? Or of the Canary Islands.
The subsidy for self-employment for creation of your own job.
Another one. Exactly, because the government of Canary Islands, they announced last year that they want to support digital nomads initiatives, co-working initiatives, and all of this. The whole industry of digital nomads, they want to support it by the Office of Tourism and the GOPCAN. But I haven't had any chance to get to these subsidies because I want to open something in this area. But is there a possibility to get to these subsidies somehow?
Because it's still sitting, the bill is sitting in Congress pending approval.
Okay, this is also not finished.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was the new
million.
law for startups was officially approved in the Minister Congress the 10th of December 2021, but is still in the middle of a process of approval by Congress. Further information of this may change our future.
It's the same thing. Okay, good. No, because they're talking about this 2 years already. Right?
Yeah. It's been making a lot of noise, but don't forget this caught Spain. Besides from that unfortunate comment, that is also true. This caught Spain completely unprepared. and it's a very fast changing industry. And all of a sudden, we're here surrounded by thousands and thousands of digital companies eager to come here. I don't think if you make any statistics or expectations that you would have thought that the filming industry would have produced 155 productions in the Canary Islands in the past year. If you would have said it as a joke, it would have been a good joke at the bar, but nobody would have believed it, and it has occurred. I live down in the city in Santa Cruz, and now I talk to my wife in Dutch because there's too many English around us constantly in a very local city. So it's very, very fast changing. And I mean, if Europe hasn't yet give full form to this, Spain, I don't think it will be the pioneer to approve a law before there's another one on European level taking shape.
Good.
But well, as I said, it will be interesting the end of this year and the beginning of 2023.
Sorry, step back to the first topic. You said before, if I'm not mistaken, if you buy a car, you have to pay some 20% something on the value of the car. If you just move in with the car, you don't have to do that, but one time only.
Exactly.
Is it right?
Yeah.
You cannot have 2 cars, 3 cars. One time only.
I think it's applicable to one car, but it's a good question. We can discuss that with the commercial gestor I even use for these matters. And you also, what you have to watch out in these situations is timing, because you only have a certain amount of time to get this done. And you need to come here with your white NIE, and then you're gonna get started with your self-employed activity, and then you need to ask for the full residence card to say, look, I'm now written in the town hall, I have a permanent rental contract in this home, or I've purchased a home, I'm now written into this property, and then that with paying Social Security will give you access to your green card, and you need to have all this prior to being able to do some tax office paperwork. So you have to run. Literally, I did it in 2015 for me, and I said I'll never do this again. It's not even worth it, the stress. So.
What about the other way around? If I buy a car here and then I go to Peninsula, the same.
It will be the same. When you go to Peninsula, it's considered an import car from a third country.
Okay.
So yeah,
So
buy a car here,
25%.
sell a car here, buy it in Peninsula.
Okay.
It's a tricky one because of our VAT regime.
I have another question, sorry. If you're employed by a company here, and then you pay, basically the company pays everything for you, right? Seguridad Social, all the things.
Well, then you are in another regime, which is the general regime, and the company pays approximately 39% of your gross salary in tax office fees. So basically, €1,000, which is now the minimum by law in Spain, you are costing the company $390, more than a company director when you own your own company. So imagine if your salary in gross is €2,000, well, you're costing them €700, and so on and on. So that's how it is. Then the difference between the gross payslip that you receive, that you have in your payslip, and the líquido a percibir, the money you actually receive as in your bank account, there's a slight difference, and this is a tax that your company pays to the tax office on your behalf, and for you it's called a retention. They have to enter your details and study if you are a single father with custody of 5 kids, or you are living la vida loca. So then they see age, mortgage, kids, and so on, and they decide on which percentage you're gonna fall into. And then they could be also depending on your salary level.
Yeah, sure. But this is given. Okay. The question is, the company will pay the taxes for you.
Exactly.
Right.
You just have to file a tax return, in which normally you will receive some money of the money they have retained from you in every payslip the whole fiscal year.
How to file that? I mean,
Well, this is the period in which you will check online, am I on a certain salary level underneath 22,000 euro a bit? You are not obliged to file it, but there's certain situations in which you are. For example, that you switch jobs in the same year, or things like this. And then it's up to you to decide, no, I have to pay if I file it, so I'm not filing it because I only earn 18,000 euro this year. But if you go above this bracket, then you are obliged by law to file it,
okay,
and
so
even
that-
if you have to co-pay money. Because it could be, normally human resources in the company you're working for wouldn't do you the weak favor of putting you in a low retention taxes when you are on a high salary, because when you have to do by law your tax return the following year, it's not a tax return, it's a tax bill where you maybe have to pay 2,000 or 3,000 euro. So normally the companies already, their software for payroll will tell them, I have to retain you 14% from your payslip, while for her I have to retain her only 11. Why? Well, because she has a mortgage, 2 kids, different situations. Rentals, a huge part of it. Well, since 2014, the rental of a property, you can almost not deduct it. So there's a tax return. When you are an employee, the payslip needs to be very well adjusted to the real situation that you are on. But HR of your company should do this and arrange it to you.
yeah, I was gonna ask you that for the rental of the apartment.
Mm.
It's still with the tax return.
In the tax return, yeah, but do you live in that property since 2014?
Why? No.
Well, it's bad news. It's super little deductible, almost nothing.
Not up to 600 euros.
Depending on since when do you rent that property.
Also the age, no?
Starting
You need to
now.
be less than 30.
Yeah, no. Unfortunately, you will notice when you're doing your tax return that is non-deductible.
It was before.
What if I live in an Airbnb and can I deduct this?
Certainly
Because it's an
non-deductible.
invoice, huh?
Totally not. No.
Right.
That's a tricky one, indeed.
Yeah. If you get an invoice. For a hotel.
Have you discussed with your current accountants if you can put this through every quarter as a
I don't even
deduction?
want to live in a hotel exactly.
Why not?
No, I'm more basic. I rather prefer a cave to a hotel. Yes.
We have situations in which a client needs to go abroad to fulfill a certain project. For example, for an engineer that needs to go on site to God knows what country for 3 weeks. All the traveling expenses according to this will be there, but it's this kind of trip and this line of business just needs to make logical sense. You're not gonna tell me that you go to the Arab Emirates for 3 weeks and you come back with 2,000 euro and the trip costs you 7. So that's kind of where we're at. If you come back and you fulfill a contract and you come here with 25,000 euro and you have spent 5 or 6 in expenses, hotels, meals and so on, it makes perfect logical and business sense that you did that, and therefore we will put it through, but not the place where is your usual home. Put it through as cost of your business because it's an Airbnb. That's not gonna be able to go through. That's far cheating.
How can I find online the tax deduction, especially for the rent, like what you just said, Herman?
In the tax office online, which I hope is part of it is in English, but
Even in Spanish, it's fine.
okay, well, you'll find it all online. They also have a program to help you and even assistants at the tax office, which will do the tax return for you and find all these little things that you can put through. In advance, I can tell you, medical bills, have you had orthodontics this year or new glasses? A certain level of contributing to a private pension which has been reduced up to €2,000 only, and that's about it. So the rest is gonna go by your payslip and the retention that you got in gross to net. So the reductions are gonna be very, very limited.
Are there any more questions? No? Then I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, Arturo,
No,
for your
thank you
talk.
guys.
And thank you all for showing up. We've got drinks and tapas at the cafe over there. Maybe you would like to leave them over there, Josh? And then, yeah, thank you. And
Thank you so
hopefully
much.
see you at the next Work and Play with Arturo. Thank you.
Thank you.